So welcome everyone to the North Central Region Aging Network webinar for April. I'm Kristen Miller. I'm an assistant extension professor at the University of Missouri Extension, and I am an exercise physiologist by trade. So today I'm going to talk to you guys about staying strong to stay healthy, strength training for older adults. And really, we're going to look at physical activity, benefits of physical activity specifically for older adults, and some impacts of inactivity. And that's the first thing that we're going to get started with. And I hope you enjoy what we're about to work through together, and possibly interact through the chat feature, if you don't mind. I'm not going to make us do any breakout rooms. Okay, so physical activity. What are the recommendations for physical activity specifically for older adults? And they are actually the same as adults. So this would be 18 to, I believe the range is 55. But what are the recommendations? So the recommendations are 150 minutes of aerobic activity, or something that's going to make your heart work a little bit more, your lungs work a little bit more, something that's going to get you breathing. Okay, this is 150 minutes of moderate activity. So you should be able to carry a conversation while you're doing this type of activity. Or actually, if someone was doing what we consider vigorous activity, that would be 75 minutes. And that would be where you can't necessarily sing a song, carry on a conversation, you're breathing that hard. That's how we constitute vigorous activity. And then there is a recommendation for 2 or more days per week of muscle strengthening activities. So that could be anything from body weight movements. You could use barbells, dumbbells, resistance, bands, anything like that, weight bearing activities where you are strengthening the muscles specifically. So what do you guys think? How many people meet those recommendations? And what constitutes physical activity? We can kind of see here: biking, swimming, walking the dog, right? Playing basketball, gardening. But what actually constitutes physical activity? What is considered physical activity? And is anything, any movement, including leisure time. So whether you like to play racquetball, or you like to garden, or if you're one of those people that really like to clean, right? Technically, cleaning is a leisure time activity, depending how hard you go, right? So anytime you're moving, transport to and from places, or a part of your work, if you are a very active person in your work, that is actually considered physical activity. And this is from the World Health Organization. But how many people, or how many adults do you think meet the physical activity guidelines? Or in this case, we're looking at how many people do not meet these guidelines. So what percentage of older adults are considered inactive? And if you want to pop that in the chat, just give me a guess. What do you think? Not bad. Not bad. So you guys are actually doing the inverse. So those are great guesses. So actually, 31% of older adults are considered inactive. So you guys were close with that 75-ish range. It's closer to about 65, but 31% of older adults, so this is ages 65 plus, are considered inactive. So not moving. And this is from the BRFSS database. And the question was, outside of work, do you do any type of physical activity? And the answer was none. So this is 31% of older adults answered none to that question. So what are the implications of not being active? What does that look like? Almost 10% of deaths among adults aged 40 to 69, and 7.8% of deaths ages 70 plus are attributed to physical inactivity. So this is not being active. And this could be anything from they're not moving, so they are at a higher risk for diabetes, heart disease, stroke, those types of things. And another nice little statistic here. What are the costs associated with physical inactivity? They account for more than 11% of total healthcare expenditures, and they're estimated at 117 billion just for not moving, right? So how do we fix this? Another thing to think about, if you're physically inactive, so you're not moving, another risk factor for that, or not necessarily a risk factor, but an implication of not moving, is you're at a higher risk for falls. And falls are, and you can kind of read through some of these stats here, they are the leading cause of fatal injuries in America. And these are specifically for older adults, so age 65 and older. But 1 in 4 Americans age 65 plus fall each year, right? We spend $50 billion in medical costs related to non-fatal falls. Whoops, sorry about that. Right, so falls, inactivity, not moving is costing Americans and older adults a lot of money, can possibly cost them their lives, right? This fatal injuries, and unnecessary ER trips. So let's take a look at what falls look like across the nation. Oh, sorry, I was getting ahead of myself. But the overall impact of falls, so with or without injury, they impact quality of life, whether you are scared of falling, and then maybe you don't go out as much as you would like, or maybe you just limit yourself in some of the activities that you do. You don't engage socially as much, right? That's going to impact quality of life. It can cause further physical decline. It can cause depression, social isolation, and feelings of overall helplessness. Okay, now we're going to look at falls reported by state. So I'm from Missouri, so I have our Missouri statistics up here. And this is the last reported falls data. So this is from 2018. So look at your state there. But these are just the reported falls. So those that have been either gone to the emergency room, have been called in for EMS to come look at them, somehow reported. Okay, and Missouri, we actually have 27% of older adults. You can see there. Okay, and now we're going to look at deaths from falls. And again, this is data from 2018. Okay, but Missouri, we have about 69 per 100,000 deaths from falls. And again, this can be attributed to physical inactivity. If we are not active, if we don't have that muscle tone, if we don't have the ability to catch ourselves, those falls are going to be a lot more serious, a lot more detrimental to our overall health, and we might not recover from those as we would if we were active and moving our bodies, right? And there's a lot of different things that go into risk factors for falls. So there's some intrinsic risk factors, so specific to the person, and there's also some extrinsic or maybe some environmental. So there's always going to be age-related changes, and possibly some sensory deficits as we age. Those things just decline naturally. They can decline faster depending how active we are. There could be some cognitive deficits, right? How we walk, so gait, our strength, our overall balance. Those are some individual characteristics that are going to come into play in terms of a personal risk factor for falling. But there's also environmental factors. So what medications are you on? A lot of blood pressure medications can cause dizziness upon standing if you move too fast. Are you wearing proper footwear? Are you walking around in your yard in sandals that don't have a sturdy base or maybe a strap on the back, right? So footwear is actually very, very important. Are you using assistive devices? Those are a little stigmatizing. Some people are really embarrassed to have to say, I need a cane or I need a walker. And it shouldn't be the case. If a cane or a walker is going to allow you to remain active and remain doing the things that you love, you should 100% be using those. And that's kind of community education's job, is to release that stigma away from those, right? It's okay. It's okay to use those because you're going to remain doing the things you love and being active. Support from caregivers. So depending on if a person is homebound and needs proper care in their home or just from someone to check in on them. If they don't have that, they might not be as comfortable doing different types of activity. So again, a lot of things coming into play in terms of the fall risk factors. But it is important to note that falling is not an inevitable result of aging, right? You can make lifestyle adjustments and we're going to talk about these evidence-based fall prevention exercise programs. We're going to talk about these here in a little bit to reduce falls, improve strength, and overall improve your outlook on quality of life. So what can someone do to not be physically inactive and to reduce their risk of falling? Sit less and move more. And this is geared towards older adults, but honestly, anyone to increase their physical activity and to reduce their risk of falling should sit less and move more. That consequently is the slogan for the 2020 physical activity guidelines: sit less, move more. So how can resistance training improve the body? How can resistance training make an impact on an older adult? Okay, so sarcopenia is what we're going to talk about right now, and that is the age-related loss of muscle. You call it atrophy as well, but just muscle mass loss in general. So over here on the left, you can see this is a cross-section of a thigh, so that quadriceps muscle, which is very important for balance, stability, movement in general. We use our legs for just about everything. And this is a cross-section of a young 23-year-old, okay, of her thigh. And this white right here is a bone. And this light gray here is the muscle. Nice, thick, strong muscle. And then out here is going to be a little bit of skin, a little bit of adipose tissue. Okay, so adipose tissue is also known as fat. Okay, so young, active, she's a very active female. And then over here is an older, it's a cross section of the same muscle, so a thigh, but for an older sedentary female. These are both female, and I believe this one is 69, I believe. But you can see here, same thing, the white is the bone, so similar size in bone, a little smaller, right? And then here is the muscle, and you can see in here there's actually some adipose tissue, right, kind of weaved into that, right? So not quite as thick, not quite as strong. And then look at all this out here, right? And that doesn't have to be the case. That doesn't have to be the case. If we could remain active, remain healthy, and doing different types of activity, we will remain, that cross-section will remain thick and healthy, similar to the one on the left. All right, and then the next thing we're going to look at, oh, this is my favorite slide. Okay, so these men, I'm going to call them young men, but these men, I'm going to call this man Bob over here. Okay, and this is John over here on the right. Bob is 70 years old and is a very healthy cardiovascular athlete, is what I would say. Very strong heart. His blood lipid levels are great. Everything, he overall, if you would look at his labs, perfectly healthy. And he does a lot of cardiovascular. Okay, so that, whoopsies, that would be, excuse me, running, swimming, biking, anything, again, that's going to get that heart pumping, right? And then over on the right, this is John Turner, age 67. And as you can see, he does some strength training. He's got his dumbbells, right? So look at the difference just in muscle tone. Okay, resistance training, again, is just moving something against some type of resistance, whether that's body weight, whether that is dumbbells, barbells, bands, or against, well, technically like swimming is resistance. Okay, so using your muscles in that way is going to help gain that muscle tone. We see that strength is increased, and we see balance improves, overall steadier. Okay, he's still perfectly healthy, Bob on the left, right? But the muscle tone isn't quite there. His heart's very healthy, but in general, muscle tone wise, we look much different. And it's not to say that one is better than the other, aerobic training versus resistance training, in terms of falls and in terms of increasing balance and stability. Resistance training does affect that more than resistant or cardiovascular training. And then how are gains, how are these improvements, how do they last? How do they remain consistent or continual? And I kind of gave you a sneak peek on that, but here's John again at age 79, right? So it can, no matter what age, you can still see the benefits of strength training and resistance training. Does he look the exact same? No, that's 12 years difference. Honestly, if I look like that at 79, heck yeah, right? But, and it, as we age, it's less about aesthetics, right? It's less about how we look. It's more about how we feel, functionality. When we're younger, resistance training and exercise, you know, we do it so that we can stay in the pant size that we are, or we do it because we want to look good at the beach. But really, as we age and as we, I'm going to say mature, right? It's less about how you look in the pants. It's more about how you feel. Can I still be out there with my kids? Can I still be out doing things with my grandkids? Can I function? Can I do what I want to do, right? Overall quality of life. And that's what really this presentation is about, how to improve quality of life for older adults. Another thing that strength training or even physical activity in general can help with is arthritis. So arthritis, and I'm sure a lot of you know what that is, but it's a disease that causes inflammation in the joints. So it can cause really painful swelling, painful joints in general. So moving doesn't always feel the best, but it's one of the things that can help the most in terms of arthritis. The more you move, the more you can increase that blood flow around that joint, you're going to alleviate the inflammation. It sounds like an oxymoron, right? It hurts to move, but I need to move. And that's very true. So we can see on the left here, this is some healthy, these are healthy joints, right? So we can see there's that gap in there. We can see that nice synovial gap capsule right here, right? And then over on the right, we can see that's bone on bone, right? Think about that in terms of just like rubbing your hands together, right? You're going to have friction. You're going to have, right? You're going to introduce some heat there. Same thing right here. We can see that bone on bone, right? So that's what arthritis starts to look like. And it really is painful, but again, moving, increasing that blood flow, getting things, I call it fired up, but getting everything working alleviates that inflammation and alleviates some of that swelling also. And then the last but not least, osteoporosis. So osteoporosis is the deterioration of bone tissue, bone density. And you can see over here on the left, this is what healthy bone tissue looks like. So kind of more like a honeycomb, but the holes, the pores is what they're actually called within the bone, are closer together. So that's going to make for more strong bones. They will withstand stress, impact better than if we look on the right, osteoporotic bone, which just means these pores that were over here get larger, and the actual bone tissue or the mineral, right, that creates the bone is much further apart. Okay, so if you think about that, I like to say Swiss cheese, right? The bigger the holes, the less integrity that cheese has. Same for osteoporotic bone. And this happens, it happens more often in females than it does males. But surprisingly, one thing that you can do to help alleviate osteoporosis is to strength train. So when we strength train or do anything body or weight bearing, body weight bearing, type of weight bearing, you actually stress the bone. And what that means is when we, everybody kind of knows what a bicep curl looks like, right? So we hold a dumbbell and we're bringing the dumbbell from our sides up to our shoulders and we're kind of bending those arms. When we bring that bicep, or when we bring that dumbbell up to our shoulder, we actually slightly bend the bones in the forearm and actually in the upper arm. And when those bones bend, you make a signal to the body that's like, hey, this bone needs to be a little stronger. Let's release some more calcium and build that bone up. So when we resistance train, it does that to each of the bones that we use. And that's why a lot of times when we're younger, those barbell exercises where we call it loading the axial skeleton, but when you load that spinal cord or that spinal column, you increase the calcification of those vertebrae, and you not necessarily alleviate, but you reduce your risk for osteoporosis later on in life because you've strengthened those bones. If you look at the bone density of a gymnast, it is insane because they are constantly hitting those. Well, they're stressing their bones greatly. They are always hitting those stunts, and there's a lot of impact in the sport of gymnastics, and their bone density is like off the charts. It's insane. Whereas actually swimming is still a very good exercise. It's easy on the joints, it's easy on the body, but it's not necessarily weight bearing. So the bone density of a swimmer looks way different than the bone density of a gymnast, just because they aren't weight bearing the entire time when they're in the pool. A lot of their training occurs in the pool. So just something to think about. If someone is prescribing exercise for someone who has osteoporosis, they wouldn't necessarily be prescribing swimming because it should be weight bearing in that regard. And then another thing to think about. So I was talking about that axial skeleton, that spinal column. So we can see this is a younger person, right, standing a little taller up. And then as we age, we can see this here. You start to see that exaggerated curve here in the spine. And really what a lot of people see as we age is this really exaggerated curve here, which is called kyphosis, and which is the exaggerated curvature of this thoracic spine up here. And that doesn't have to happen. That is not an inevitable part of aging. Again, just like falls, this kyphosis is what it's called, or you might have heard it called humpback. That is not an inevitable part of aging. If we can strengthen that spine, strengthen those muscles around that spine, we stand up taller, right? Our posture is better. Shrinking is not inevitable. But a lot of times if we've got osteoporosis, we see a deterioration in that spinal column in those vertebrae. And that's where you see these start to play because they can't hold the posture that they used to be able to hold. Okay. So again, resistance training can combat osteoporosis. As you can see here, small fractures in the spine causing that kyphosis. So what can extension do? How do we fix this? And I'm from Missouri, so these are some of the physical activity programs that we offer, but there are so many amazing evidence-based programs out there. And we as extension agents or as extension professionals, we can deliver these. There's funding across the nation or within your own state to be able to offer these programs. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about each one of them, just so if you don't already offer these in your state, you can bring it back and say, hey, these are pretty cool. Or if you do, please tell me some of your favorite things about them. Actually, that's a great thing. If any of you on here, if you offer any of these, I'll go back. If you offer any of these programs, put them in the chat and which programs you offer. I know I'll give you guys a second if you do offer those. But within the state of Missouri, we had the opportunity to have an ACL grant to offer matter of balance and Tai Chi, which has been awesome. We just finished that up. And then I'll tell you a little bit more about stay strong, stay healthy. Yeah, Tai Chi for arthritis. And Misty, where are you from? My routes, Ohio. Oh, good. Okay. Fabulous. Okay, well, I won't dive too far into each of them because it does sound like you guys are already offering these, which are great. But A Matter of Balance is a program actually designed for the fear of falling. And it is, we find it as a very good starter program, where people who maybe they aren't as well versed in exercise or they haven't really been active lately, and aren't quite sure how to get started, we think Matter of Balance is actually a really good starter program. And there's a lot of discussion in the program itself. It's not completely exercise based, which is nice, again, as that intro. But it's 8 2-hour sessions, and you can host those either once a week or twice a week. And it is on the National Council on Aging. That's what NCOA, sorry, we love acronyms over at Mizzou. But the National Council on Aging has an evidence-based program list. It's the tier 3, which means that they are of the highest research backing, and they are approved for ACL funding, really. So you can implement them within your state. And it's also eligible for Title 3D funding. So within your state, there is Title 3D, which is for physical activity and health promotion programming. And that will look different depending on each state. So ours runs through our area agencies on aging, and they control, each region controls their own Title 3D funding. Some are dispersed at the state level. So if you're interested in offering Matter of Balance through Title 3D, check with your Department of Senior or Health and Services. That's what ours is called, Senior Health and Services. But that's Matter of Balance. Again, a really good intro program. And then we also offer Tai Chi for arthritis and falls prevention. And a lot of people I guess they don't think of Tai Chi, of resistance training or strength training, like right off the bat. They're like, oh, you have to have dumbbells. No, moving against your own body weight, moving against gravity. But the beautiful thing about Tai Chi is it's so slow and so controlled. I work out a lot. And the instructor training for Tai Chi, I was so sore. And so you can't tell me that's not resistance training. And it's actually Soon style. So it's not, it's low impact. There's no jumping. There's no, Tai Chi is more of goodness gracious. Tai Chi is more of a martial arts type of workout, but this one specifically, Soon style, is low impact, very slow and controlled. And you can teach it a lot of different ways, which is really nice. But it's 8 to 10 weeks, and it's 2 times a week for 1-hour sessions. There's always a warm up, and I love that warm up. If anybody teaches Tai Chi, sometimes I just do the warm up in my office so that I can like relax, because it is very, I just love that warm up. And then there's forms of the day. So there's 6 basic forms. There's the basic 6, and then there's the advanced 6, and then there's the cool down. And it is also a National Council on Aging evidence-based program. So again, we were allowed to implement this across the state through ACL funding, and it would also be eligible for Title 3D. Another program that we offer, and I know a lot of area agencies on aging probably offer this, or community centers, depending where you're at. But this Walk with Ease program is actually from the Arthritis Foundation. And within Missouri, it is CDC funded. I don't know if that's nationwide, but ours is CDC funded through our osteoarthritis program. But it is 6 weeks, 3 times a week for 1-hour sessions. And it's a walking program, just like it says, Walk with Ease. It's walking with a leader. And then at the end, they have what are called lecturettes, but just like a little blurb of arthritis related information. And it's designed for anyone with arthritis. However, a lot of people take it who maybe are just looking to, again, get into some type of exercise program or start something. This, again, is a great Kickstarter program. Let's see. Oh, there is a self-directed option also, and that is actually very nice. Oh, yes. someone on the chat says it's a great program. During the meetings, I walked using my phone to listen. Yes. So this self-directed option has been very popular, specifically over the introduction of that lovely COVID period that we're still in. Hopefully we're out of there soon. But this was a great option for people to walk on their own, complete their manuals, their walking logs, I guess. And then they could tune into educational sessions as they wanted. They could also meet with someone as they wanted. There's a lot of flexibility within Walk with Ease, while still being able to maintain fidelity to the program. So again, this one's a really good Kickstarter introductory program if you don't have one in your state or you're looking to start one. And the training costs are relatively low. I believe and it may have changed, but last I looked, it was $89 for the online training, and then you're good to go. And you've got like a little instructor portal and everything. It's a really good program in case anybody is looking into that. And I can pop things in the chat if you're interested. Let's see here. And then I'll tell you a little bit about our program, Stay Strong, Stay Healthy. And this is a resistance training program for older adults. So it is 8 weeks, 2 times a week for 1-hour sessions. And it is completely exercise based. So we have a warm up. We have the same 8 strength training exercises every time, and then a cool down. And we developed this in Missouri in 2005, and we have been implementing it since, and it's kind of evolved into, we've got level 1 and level 2. We're hoping to start some initial piloting, or at least development of a level 3 with the introduction of power movement. So there's actually been some really cool research about incorporating power movements for older adults. And what that would be quicker movements, a little bit more explosive. So resistance training is wonderful, but when you combine that with power movements, you can actually see increases in strength, increases in balance and stability a lot quicker. So we're hoping to possibly research that aspect and see what that would look like for a level 3. But we are looking to apply. We have to get it approved in Missouri for Title 3D funding, like I was explaining earlier. So we're looking to go that route at the state level anyway. But with this program, we do pre and post fitness assessments, which is really important because you can show participants that maybe have never strength trained, or even if they have, hey, here's where you started before the 8 weeks, and here's where you ended up, and look at that. And it is really powerful for people to be able to see the difference in just a few measures of physical activity. And we do functional fitness assessments. So we do a 30-second sit to stand, and it's literally sitting in a chair, standing up, and sitting back down. How many times can you do that in 30 seconds? We also do a 10-foot up and go. So seated in a chair, standing, walk around a cone, come back. How long did that take? Those are functional assessments that really can make a huge impact in someone's quality of life and general health. So we do those pre-post with a couple of balance, some flexibility, but that's huge. So if you're not necessarily doing pre and post fitness assessments with your physical activity programs, you might look into that, because it's really helpful. And again, it's a very powerful tool to be able to show, one, your value, but also your participants' improvement and how they've improved themselves in just 8 weeks. Another thing that we have done in Missouri is we have created a prescription pad for medical professionals, physicians, healthcare providers to prescribe exercise, or to prescribe specifically Stay Strong, Stay Healthy is the example that we have here. But I believe we have one, Kels, correct me if I'm wrong, but we have a prescription pad for like Tai Chi, matter of balance, physical activity in general. And the idea is, I don't know if you've heard of the movement, exercise is medicine, but it 100% is. Exercise is medicine, and we should be thinking about it more like that, specifically for older adults. I mean, all they've got to be doing is moving. and to get them moving, sometimes it needs to look a little bit more official than just, hey, you should probably, go for a walk, right? That's great advice, right? But if a doctor prescribes you, hey, I think you need to go join this program, we've actually seen it be very, very helpful. And again, a very powerful tool to help participants and people of the community to join our classes. And all it is, we just created it. It's a piece of paper that you can work with physicians or, again, any type of healthcare provider to write a prescription for your program or for your interventions in general. Yes. So true, Missy. That is great. So she said she'll never forget a cardiologist saying that if we could put all the benefits of exercise into a pill, no one would be able to afford it. 100%. And the best part is exercise is free for the most part. All you got to do is get out there and move. Ooh, I've got a great question for you. What is the best exercise for an older adult? Pop it in the chat. What do you think? Best exercise for older adults. And that can be type, it can be a movement. You guys are so great. Yes. Anything someone is willing to do, right? If we all of a sudden decided, you know what, burpees are the best exercise that you can do. Okay, cool. If you don't like burpees, you're not going to do them. They're not benefiting you one bit, are they? I enjoy walking. I love to walk. I will go out and walk. That is a great activity. That is a great exercise to move my body. If I enjoy it, I'm more likely to do it. So that's very true. When somebody asks you, what is the best exercise for me to do? And just like you guys said, anything that you like to do, that is the best exercise for you specifically. And it may be different from one person to the next, but just encouraging movement, encouraging people to enjoy it. If you enjoy being active, awesome, do it. Walking in the forest and forest bathing, absolutely. I just learned what forest bathing is, by the way, Eleanor. Thank you for using that term. I just learned about that. But it's basically immersing yourself into the hike and kind of like being mindful about it. Is that right, Eleanor? Yes, that is so cool. I had never heard about that before until recently. But walking is actually, a lot of you answered walking, and that is a really good exercise for people to at least get started with. And some people get kind of, I don't know if they get frustrated, but they think, what, I have to sweat or I have to be out of breath in order for it to count for exercise. And no, you don't. No, you don't. You got to move your body. And that's really all that it needs to constitute. So if you love gardening, get out there and move your body, digging that trowel, digging that stuff, that counts. If you enjoy dancing, good for you, because that is a workout. I tell you what. Yeah, Missy says, patients used to ask me all the time when she worked in cardiac pulmonary rehab, what would be the best exercise? Yeah. What do you like to do? Very true. Very true. But yeah, just another way, again, something to think about if you haven't done this already in your state is these prescription pads, because they are so helpful and a very easy way to make your community classes. I don't know if seem more appealing is the word, but add that value to your community programs. All right. And that was really all that I had. If anybody has any questions, feel free to unmute if you'd like, or if I need to go back some slides, if anybody has questions, let me know.
Hi, Kristen. This is Brock Turner. I was interested. Should we just email you directly if we were wanting to know more or look into the Stay Strong, Stay Healthy program?
Yes, you definitely can. And I'll put my email in the chat here just so everybody has it.
Thank you very
Yes,
much.
and a little bit more on the Stay Strong, Stay Healthy program. That is actually on the National SNAP Ed Toolkit. So it is approved for SNAP education implementation. So that is another way that you can use it. But there's my information, and I will actually put my colleague Kelsey Weitzel, who is also, we co-lead our healthy aging programs in Missouri. So you can contact both of us should you need anything. But there's that there.
Hey, Kelsey, or Kristen, I mean, sorry, this is
That's okay.
Denise. I saw Kelsey's name flash,
That's all right.
I might just say, something that we have done with Stay Strong, Stay Healthy through our SNAP Ed audience is we have developed a great partnership with the Kansas City Veterans Hospital. And they are on our approved site list for working with veterans, and that they have what's called a whole health program, and their program coordinator is who we work with, and she kind of does some screening for veterans who could benefit from this class. So, and that's been wonderful.
Yes, that is a great point. Veterans are a perfect population for Stay Strong, Stay Healthy, but also in general, SNAP education implementation, anything going with SNAP education in terms of adults, veterans would be a perfect population. And then I believe somebody put in the chat, I think it was Amy, yes, Amy did, if we charge for our exercise programs. And yes, we do. So Stay Strong, Stay Healthy can be offered to SNAP eligible audiences, and those do not have registration fees. Obviously, the SNAP grant covers that, but it can also be offered to other populations, and we do a $50 per participant charge for that. We also do the same for Tai Chi. So Tai Chi is not SNAP approved, SNAP Ed approved. So that is for all audiences, but we do a $50 charge for those. Walk with Ease is no registration because that's covered under a CDC grant, and then Matter of Balance has historically been grant funded as well. So neither of those had a per participant charge. Great questions. And does anybody else, are you guys working with your area agencies on aging to implement your physical activity programs if you have them? If you're not, you definitely should be, because they are a great resource and really have the capacity to help you. Yeah. And the Department of Health. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Really collaborating with both of those entities helps a lot in terms of getting your programs out there as well as filling them. And then we also have regional arthritis centers. I don't know if other states have those, but those are very helpful also. And we offer a lot of our Walk with Ease programs through that, but we also do our chronic disease programming through them as well. Does anybody else have any questions? I'm happy to answer whatever you've got. If not, again, feel free to email either myself or my colleague Kelsey Weitzel if you had specific questions about our Stay Strong, Stay Healthy program, or if you have specific questions about anything that was mentioned in this webinar, please feel free to reach out. But don't forget to join us next month. It would be May 6th, again, same time, same place. And Kristen Litzelman from Wisconsin will be doing a webinar on caregiving during COVID, adaptation and coping while caregiving in a crisis. So don't forget, put that on your calendar. I think that's going to be a really, really informative webinar. So thank you all for joining.
Yes, Eleanor, I love it.
Yes.
To lift some weights.
Thanks, everybody.